In this video, we're going to go straight into creating our own project from scratch from the Qualtrics platform. Last video stepped you through some of the characteristics, the attributes, and the interface of Qualtrics. So go back and refresh yourself, but this one we're going straight in to look at creating your own. So let me share my screen and you will see that I'm straight into the platform here in Qualtrics. Now the button that you want is to create your own project. It's centrally located at the top here, and anytime you want to come back to your original base platform main screen, you just double click on projects. These ones will give you help into the Qualtrics platform, and that's a very good platform to go into. There's libraries that you can go in and get some ideas about your research design, and but the most important thing is let's now create it from scratch. Most importantly, remember I have a document always up where I've Word docked out exactly the design, like a script, like a mud map, so I know exactly where I'm going to when I'm designing my project from scratch. Click the create the project button, call it maybe test if you want, or whatever relates to your survey. And the next thing is folders. I get a lot of questions about this. It's just simply, do you want to categorize it on your interface, or do you want it just uncategorized? At the moment, if you've only got one or two, you may want to keep them uncategorized. When you get quite a few more, which I do, I normally put them into folders that I understand where the surveys I can reach them again and upload to. Now, over here on the left-hand side, you'll see that you can create from an existing copy. So you can actually have one that you've already done and get it uploaded and then modify the questions as you go down. Some people do that when they're doing another part of the survey, such as if it's longitudinal or if it's another research that is similar in questioning. There is a comprehensive library, if you press into here to go and have a look at what Qualtrics have done, where they've designed questions according to the research. Remember, your research type of questions have to align to the actual data that you want to come out and what your question and overall has to find. Or you may have a file that you want to upload. For example, when we were looking at some survey work that we wanted to send out from overseas at one of the universities in America, they actually created a certain type of file which is able to be uploaded straight into your platform, and it comes straight in for you. But that's only if you have organised through certain establishments to be able to do that. So that's that. Now click create your button. I'm not going to do that because I've already created one for you down here, so I'm just going to press straight into it. It's only got some standard questions in it. You will come in and you will see your project will look here. There'll be the first question. You can change these question numbers, by the way, by just clicking on them and changing it to the number that you want. And then it will create a numeric listing down. But at the moment, you will have a default question that you always come in on. It will look like this with the look and feel, survey flow, survey options, tools, and I'll come to this button in a minute. But if we highlight on that first question that you came across, it's always a default to a multiple choice. If you bring up your Word document, which I've always got on handy, I always check to see now what is the first question asking of me. Does it need a choice, or does it need, as you can see, I've already Word docked out and designed the questions that I want. This one here, you can see I'm probably looking at a matrix where I can either reverse the axes or put in more scales if I want, but I want so many like it ratings there. And going further down, I need more options. So I've already gone through and done the mind map and mapped out exactly how I want the survey to do. That's a really important step, because before I come into the platform, I don't want to be having to balance between what the question type should be or how I'm going to design it. And I've already gone in and made sure that I've done spell check on this. So when I'm copying and pasting across, which is a good way of doing it, I split my screen and I copy exactly from my Word doc, and I'll show you how to put it into the rich content editor to speeding up. Down here, I may want to create a block, and I'll tell you about that. Some surveys you can have flowing all the way through with page breaks. Some you may want in blocks. For example, they go into one complete set of questions that could be all about their demographics, which could be age, gender, etc. Or you could have, as I do in some surveys, depending on what the research team or your particular design of your PhD survey needs to be, whether you go with the literature that says put your demographics at the top of your survey or at the bottom. It just depends. It's really up to you. And I'm able to pick up all sorts of things on the Word doc that when I'm editing, I get just edited that double word error out. So I can do that here before I'm putting it over into my survey. So the first one you can see that we clicked on was a default to multiple choice. If you look at the right-hand column, and I'm only going to go through 3 basic types in this particular short introductory video to get you started. You will see the most important panel that you're working with is the right-hand panel. The first one is change the question type. If you click, it's automatically defaulted to multiple choice, which if I look at my Word doc at the beginning, yes, I did want a multiple choice and I wanted 2 options. That's correct. However, if I didn't want that, I simply drop down and you can now see that there are multiple options. And it actually shines up an example of what, if you hover over it, exactly what it would look like if you put it into your survey. So if I wanted a graphic, or that's the option that I do want. If I wanted a slider, for example, or a side-by-side, it actually gives me a really good guide of what it would visually look like and whether that's what I'm wanting. But in this particular one, I want 2 choices. I do want a multiple choice. I will go to the choices and all of a sudden I know I only want 2, so I would click on and edit backwards to only 2 options. I want all my data, as you can see by my Word doc, I'm already starting to digitally work out for myself what my data options should come out as, what 1 means, what 2 means. I always go and script it. So I want a single answer. That means I want all the 1s and 2s that will come out with those 2 options in the 1 column. I've got more options there if I want to. It depends on what type of higher level order SPSS analysis you want to do. If you're going to do multilinear, you may want to have multiple columns answers. So just depends what you want with your data. But initially I always put it into single answer so that I know that when I collect my data, I know that I've got all the options in the 1 column to start with to do the initial runs of perhaps, chi-square, the significance, the p-values, etc., and frequencies, etc. So, and I will, as the responses, I will preview, and I'll show you preview, and I put a couple of responses in, and then I go and actually download the data in a CSV file and make sure that the data is actually structured the way that I want it to come out. And if I don't, I come back into this panel and modify accordingly. Now, at the moment, you can see I've got it positioned going down. Now, lots of people ask me, should I go down or across? The answer is simple. It's dependent on the type of design. Your research team will guide you. Your working data party will work, or you may want a particular design. If you want it to go horizontal, you can actually just click that button, and there are more options for you to go as well. I'm going to talk about mobile friendly, and you really have to be aware these days that the majority of participants will be viewing your surveys on mobile devices. So if you have a widened question, and I'll get to matrix tables, you may need to be aware that you may need to keep it vertically down so it doesn't overrun on a mobile device, and you will get an indication. So I'll talk to you about that. For the moment, I'll keep it vertical. And then, of course, your validation options are whether you want to force the question so that the participant can't go any further on the survey at the end of the page without answering, coming back, getting a prompt and answering it. If, for example, you don't want to force it and you want request a response, it means that it will prompt the participant, always kindly and nicely that would you go back and have a look at this particular question? Not necessarily answer it, but would you like to go back and maybe complete it? And of course, if there's validation types, custom, I've got none here. The validation types could be that on that particular one, I want a particular condition to be met. And I'm going to put in load in an error message if the participants don't meet it. Normally, I just, in particular ones that I really want to collect the data up, I'm always ticking false response. Now, the actions are important. So there's 3 important things. Well, actually, the ones down here that I always look at is forced validation and actions. But if you're looking at the whole panel, the question types are very important, so that aligns to the research design that you've already gone in and decided, yes, the participants would best get the data will be drawn out best by multiple choice, or would it be drawn out best by, if you're in marketing, gap analysis, etc. How to find out more information about the research types is go up to help, as I told you at the beginning of this session, and you put in question types into the platform, and it explains why you would pick one question type over another, which is also advised. I've also advised for you to go and have a look at. The last section is actions. This one, there's constant questions about how do I take a question, and if they've got one option but they don't need to answer 2 questions in between but be directed to the next one, a question further on in the survey, how do I do it? Well, we add in skip logic, and there's also display logic. In other words, display where the best action is for the participant to go to. And at the moment, skip logic is simply, for example, in this question, you can see that it's already on. And the way that I already inputted that was I pressed skip logic, and then I added the options. And when I added the option, you'll see that I've gone in and I can see that if the condition is met that they take the first choice, which is highlighted, is selected, then you skip to the next question down, which you can see. So down it goes. Here's the option. I can put another skip logic on it I can put a skip logic for all options in a multiple choice. So you just have to be very aware where you put the next section down for them to skip to, which is really important. And it's really a necessary thing, because sometimes you don't want your participants to constantly go through all the options. And this is a way of keeping your participants going with your response. So it's a logical way. It's also a quicker way to make sure that, and a secure way to make sure that you've engaged your participants and that they actually are taking not only the time to answer it, but being directed straight to the necessary questions without them having to laboriously go through needless questions. So that's important to always do. If I want to view that question as to how it would look, I just highlight on it, and I only want to preview one question, I can do that. And that's how it's going to come up and look in your survey. So you just go, and I'm always going and having a look to see, is that the way that I want the participants to see it coming up? So it's always good. So you can preview individual questions as you create them, or you can go and preview your survey at the end, and I'll come to that. Let me just go to another question type. And as you can see here, this question type, if you glow on, is a matrix table. Now, there's an important tip about matrix tables here. You can see now that the option glows up that I have mobile friendly. I can add white space in between my options. I can transpose the table. If I transpose the table, you can see when I tick that, we've just transposed the axes and the variables there. But I'm just going to go back to the mobile friendly, and the mobile friendly tells me whether it's going to overflow on a mobile device. You must tick mobile friendly so that it will, the width of it is compressed so that when your participants are trying to take the survey on any mobile devices, that it won't overflow. And that's an important option there. And going further down, there's the text entry ones. So here you can see that the text entry, and I've added a multi-line. So I just simply press the question types. I press for text entry, as I've done here. You can see I've created the text entry, and then I've asked for space of a multi-line. Now, if you only want your participants to have one line, then you go single line. Or if you want them to put in as paragraph answers, you go essay type. So you can do all sorts of things, and there's validations and responses there as well. So that's the three major types that are used in surveys. There are other types, and you can ask me about those, but there is also very good help for you on the platform itself to describe the different types of questions. But let's just go in and come back to the original question that you would have come in and created. How do I start putting and editing? Well, now we've got to go to use the rich content editor. It's not that hard. If you're working with Microsoft, it's very easy to do. So you just click on that first line. I'll just go back, hover over it, click on the first line, and you'll see that the little box with rich content editor appears. Just delete that out, press on rich content editor, and now above you, and you will see that it's simply what you're already working with, although it can be a little sensitive. Especially the important thing is to highlight over the question. Now here's where your beautiful mud map that I call here, your script here, is already in. I just simply copy the first question. I know it's going to be multiple choice, and I simply paste it in. Now, if it doesn't come in, you may need to do a Control V. Hold Control and V down at the same time. That's a hint, because a lot of people got back to me and said, I can't paste it in. You just simply hover it over. You may want to do some editing here, so go back and capitalize. You may want to make that bold. It depends how you want all your questions to appear. So it's really that presentation that you want. You can change to blue. You can do italic size. You can underline. You can take the underline off if you think, no, I don't want my questions underlined. You can change the font. The trick is you must always have it highlighted. If you don't have that highlight on, it won't do what you want. I might decide that I just want it bold. I might have decided I wanted to insert a graphic here to guide the participant. You don't necessarily have to do that. But for example, I have already uploaded just some logos and some smiley faces here. Now, I'm going to give you a hint here. A lot of people say, I tried to insert the graphic, but it just overshone and didn't come in at the size I wanted, because you have to reduce the pixelation of it. So let's insert it first of all. Now that's far too big. Let's just go to right click, go to image properties, reduce the width. That's all you have to do, and it'll actually shine up how it looks in the thing. Now that's actually taken away because I wanted the graphic in. I'm going to go simply back over to my website, copy back in my question. So you can do all sorts of things, as you can see. Again, I'm just going to Control V, and there we go. And again, I'll just simply go and edit. But the trick is you must have it highlighted for any of the bolds, the italices, the underlining to work. That's the trick of it all. If you don't have it highlighted, it won't work in rich content editor. So be aware of that. And I may, for example, even want to change the color. Some people like to put highlight behind it. You can, the background color, whatever. It's up to you. See, and that's how it's coming out. To put in the options, people say, well, how do I get the words in? If you click on any of the options, click to write, choice 1. So it's a very good guide. You just backspace, delete, whatever, and it'll go back to a red zone. That means the zone that you need to click into. You simply hover over and you copy again. This is the reason. You can actually type straight in. I'll show you how to type straight in the next option. But I like to make sure that I've already got the font in that I want. The next one, I might want to say this is the science option. Oh, I've made a mistake then. It's not that hard. You just backspace it out and it comes out. I think I might go back to my and copy straight in. So there's a number of ways that you can put in. It's just getting practice with it, which is important. There you go. I make sure that I go back and I hover. Oh, I might want to put another option in. You go up here to the right panel, click add an option. I can add as many multiples as I want in a multiple choice, and I might call this other. So I'm going to put in other, and I want to give the participants a bit of an option here to write in. See how there's a blue box with a drop down? Put an entry, allow an entry, and then just as you would do in your data sheets and that, you just simply spread it out. And as you can see, I've given now option for my participant to write in. There may be another option. So that's just a simple way of editing the tools. Now that I've done my project and I'm starting to actually get involved with the editing of it, I may want to come up to this tab and have a look at the look and feel. And when I look at look and feel, I may want, at the moment this is what I'm creating, but I may want to put in, I may want to put forward and back buttons in. That's totally up to you. I normally put in a text bar with text to give the participants an option as to where they want to go. I may want to change the theme. I simply go and change the theme here. I may have my own theme that I can actually use, or whatever your institution is, and you can actually set so many questions to a page, all in this particular one. I may even want to highlight the questions, but I certainly want the separator so that I know that my questions are separated. You can see here. So that's just a little bit that you can play around with. What is survey flow? Well, survey flow is, like I was saying last time, creating blocks. And simply to create a block, if you want to, you go down to the bottom. You can create a new question as you go all the time, or you can copy a question, and I'll show you that. You can import questions, or you can add a block. Adding a block is simply pressing on add a block and putting the questions into that block that you want. You just drag them down. If you want to create a new question, you simply create one, and it will default, as I said, to a multiple choice, and then you go up onto your panel and you change it to the type. You could import questions that you actually want. So you can go to anywhere. You can go to the Qualtrics library. You can go anywhere to do that. So that's an important thing as well. So you don't have the option of just always having to take your own questions. You may want to add a panel at the top here, an introductory panel. You just go to the right-hand column and you can see when you hover on questions, a positive green, a negative, and a positive comes up. You just simply add, okay? And you take away, you go into the rich content, and you can even put your letter in there, your introduction letter. So it's up to you how you want to do that. You can make default blocks if you want. So in other words, you default so many questions into a block, or you can, it's up to you. So it's really, if I don't want that panel, then I just negative it. Now down the bottom, you'll see that there's a trash bin, and so it'll actually show you how many questions that I just trashed, which I did. You empty your trash. And it'll actually save you. Oh, do you really want to trash that? Well, yeah, I do. But if you don't, see how it says trash is now empty? Now, another trick when you're editing is always to hold control down at S, and that will force edits to be saved as you go. But this is an automatic save. So be aware that it is saving. It's an automatic save. So when you enter out, it's already saved your work. But if you really want to force a save, Control S will help you there. The important thing here too is survey options. And what's in survey options? We did this last video, but I'm always making sure that when I'm creating every project from new, I'm either putting a back button in. I can tick anything that I need for my particular characteristics. Save and control. I want to show question numbers, I know I want it in English. I want to change the title of this so that it comes up in my anonymous link as test or whatever you want to call it. You know, it depends on you what characteristics you need embedded in this particular survey to send out to your participants, and this is where you set it. So you may want to, some people put password protection on it if you need be. Certainly the expiration date is very important. In other words, when do you want no more responses to be collected? And partially complete is also important too. There may be a point at which lots of participants start the survey and you want them to save and continue, but if they don't come back within 6 months, you want to be able to clean their data and complete and make sure that you've got fully completed or partially completed. It's up to you. So how you want your data to be collected. So it's very important that. The tools is a handy one. You can test this survey. You can send it to yourself without it actually going out to any participants. And most importantly, you can print it off. You can export it to Word. You can export the whole survey, and you can import another if you prefer that there's perhaps questions in another survey that is in your library that could perhaps be better. You can spell check this. As you can see, I'm spell checking, and it will actually say, well, you know, did you want aircon? I can ignore it, just, you know, it'll change to the words that I actually want, and it will save that. As you can see, those automatic saves came up as I was editing with spell check. Let's go into preview the survey, because once you get it to a stage that you think, oh, it's pretty reasonable that I want to send it out, you can actually now see your mobile, how it's coming up on your mobile phone. So here on the left hand side, because I've set in that I want a mobile view and choose the preview that you want, which I just pressed preview survey, but I certainly want to see how it's coming up on a mobile device that is actually looking the way that I want it. I may want to redesign some of the editing to make this more clear on a mobile device. But as you can see, I've put in a front button, and when I click it, now it's saying, please answer this question. So I actually did put in that I wanted a false response. So it's actually prompting me to come back. If I want to go all the way through without having the validation, I could actually bring up the options on this little cog up here and say ignore validations. Show hidden questions are the ones that you necessarily don't need. You've inputted, but you don't necessarily need for the participants to see. But I wouldn't actually, I normally edit out any questions or notes that I don't want the participants to actually see in my survey. Now, if I ignore the validation, as you can see, I can now go straight through my survey and I can see what the flow is like. We thank you for your time. I've just inputted a standard answer by that survey options, and that's the one. It's your response has been recorded. I can actually put in my own response at the end if I want, and I'll show you how to do that. So I can restart the survey. I can go and make sure that it's flowing through on the mobile phone the way that I want it to come up, which is exactly how I do. If there's something there, such as the matrix, I can go back and say, oh, I wonder if that's actually overflowed on my, I can go back and have a look. So it's a really good option of having a look and previewing it for yourself, that you are confident before you send it out. I'm going to close that preview now. And as you can see, I was talking about how it would look if you had a look of your survey options and making sure that you have got everything in. You can come back in here. I want a back button in now. And so once I put in certain ticks in here, I customize the survey ending. For example, I had one already, a standard one, but I have a number loaded in my own library according to the survey how I want it to end. I may want a different type of one. So, so that's important. If you don't want to customize it, then you just simply need to put your own one into a library, which you just update as a Word doc into the library, and it will come up. So I'm just going to save those options at the moment because that seems quite good for me. So that's just a view. You can actually go to Legwork Consultancy now. We have our own YouTube channel, and on it we'll have not only qualitative, our ebook guides, etc., but it will also contain this YouTube channel, which is on this link here, from Legwork Consultancy. There will also be a link to our Legwork Consultancy website with our YouTubes on it. Actually, that will have short videos, and these in particular, these Qualtrics ones, will be uploaded eventually to this channel very shortly. So as you can see, and also if you are interested in qualitative, you will be able to go to this particular website and see some of the ways in which NVivo, and there will be another MP4 quite soon that will show you how to export your open-ended data out of Qualtrics into NVivo. So as you can see, it's important that you go and have a test and you get confident with the editing tools, which doesn't take too much, but it does take practice. But some of the tips that I've given you are quite handy, and that's what I've come from experience there. So thank you.